Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're making some folding camp stools. Now this is not a new concept or a new idea by any means. There have been plenty of people that have made these online, but recently I saw in Lee Valley that they sold an aluminum version of these things, and I thought, what a cool project to make out of wood and bring here to the show. And that's what we're going to do today. And it all starts off with a little bit of 3/4, in my case, maple and walnut. Well, I have milled down some walnut and maple to 3/4 inch thickness, and the walnut is going to be for the top or for the seat area. So we can leave that alone for now because we're going to concentrate on the maple or the legs of our stool. Now I'm making 2 stools at once, so I have quite a bit more stock than what you would need if you were just making one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over to the jointer. I'm going to joint one edge of each piece of this maple, and then over at the table saw, we're going to rip it into 1.5 inch wide strips. And with that done, I have cut these now to length. For each stool that you want to make, you're going to need 4 pieces that are 15.5 inches long, and you'll need another 4 pieces that are 9 inches long. So once you get those cut, you can put those aside, and we can go now to our walnut pieces. So what I'm going to do, same process, I'm going to joint one side, and then we're going to rip it to a width of 4.5 inches. Once we get that done, we will cut it to a length of 12 inches each. For each stool, you're going to need 2 of those. Well, we're going to start off with the layout on our 9-inch pieces. It's a very simple layout that starts off with a center line along the length, just at one end, just like that. And then 3/4 inch in from the end, we will place a mark and center punch that. And then with our compass set to a radius of 3/4 inch, we will round off this one end here, just like that. And that's it. This is the layout for each one of our 9-inch leg pieces. So at this point in time, what you're going to want to do is take this over to the drill press, and right there where you center punched, we're going to drill a 5/8 diameter through hole. And you want to do this for each one of your 9-inch pieces. Now there's a little more to do on these pieces with the shaping, but we're going to do that a little after. We'll now turn our attention to our longer pieces. That's our 15.5 inch pieces. And the very first thing we want to do, just like we just did, identical, we are going to do a center line here on the length, right here at 3/4, and then another one here at 3/4. We'll spin it around, and we're going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side of our board. So a center line at 3/4 inch, and then in from the end at 3/4. And now at both of those ends, we're going to use our compass and round it off. All right, and now in one of these sides, it really doesn't matter which one, pick one. That mark there at 3/4 and centered on our board, we're going to give that a center punch. And that is going to get a 5/8 through hole, just like we did with the other one, but you only do it at one end. Now measuring from the end that you're going to drill the hole, you want to come in from the end 8 inches along. Place a mark there at 8 inches and centered at 3/4, right there. And at that point as well, we will center punch and drill a 5/8 diameter hole. And we're going to do this for all of our 15.5 inch long pieces. And with all of our marking and all of our holes drilled, I'm now going to take these over to the bandsaw. I'm just going to cut off the corners where we've marked that radius, and then over at the belt sander I'm going to round them all off. Once you get that done, come back and see me and we can move on to the next step. Just remember, on the 9-inch pieces, one end remains flat. And at this point, your pieces should look like this. Your 15.5-inch long pieces should be rounded at both ends with your 2 5/8 holes, and your 9-inch long pieces should have your 1 5/8 diameter hole with the one end rounded. At this point now, what I want to do on all of these pieces is I'm going to take them over to the router table. I'm going to put a 1/8 inch round over all the way around on our 15.5-inch long pieces. And don't do this flat section, but just around our edges here on both sides of our 9-inch pieces, I'm going to place that same 1/8 round over. That'll help soften these edges up really well, and then we can give all of these pieces a good sanding. And with that, the legs are pretty much finished. I mean, you can sand them as much as you want, but that is all of the construction kind of thing of them. So we can put those aside for now, and we need a few other parts. We need 2 brace pieces. In my case, I used walnut. They are 10.5 inches long and 1.5 inches wide, 3/4 of an inch thick. I've sanded them all over, and I've put a 1/8 inch round over just on one side of these. These will be cross braces on our legs. As well, we're going to need some lengths of 5/8 diameter dowel. You'll need one piece that is 9 inches long and 4 pieces that are 1.5 inches long. And once you get all these pieces here together, we can start on the stool's assembly. Well, some people get a little confused in the assembly of these, and it's really not that big of a deal. Let me show you how you can keep it straight. So you want to lay out your longer pieces of your legs. Your 2 holes will be on the left-hand side. And what we're going to do is this piece, being one of the 9-inch pieces, will go on the outside of the outside legs, just like that. And the other 2 pieces will go on the inside of the inside legs. And what we can do at this point is attach these pieces here with the 9-inch length of the 5/8 dowel, and we will attach these pieces out here with 2 of the lengths of the 1.5 inch long dowel. So there you go, there is that one assembled, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. And now this one can be a little tricky to get together, so what we'll do is we'll get our one side put in first. And then on the opposite end of the dowel, we'll hammer our shorter piece on first, and then we'll hammer our second one on until the dowel is flush. Okay. Now that all the banging and crashing is done, we have our leg pieces ready to go. So we can lift this piece up like this, and we'll lift our other longer leg up just like that. This piece, we can put it in here like this, lift up our longer leg, and do the same thing on the opposite one. And then I'm pretty sure you know what I'm going to do here. Our center sections of our legs are going to get attached using 1.5 inch length of dowel right in the middle. Oh, I'm like a mini jackhammer. Okay, so we got that one in place, and now we can place our other leg where it belongs, just like this. And we'll do the same thing. We'll line it up, and we'll just hammer in our 1.5 inch length of dowel. just like that. All right, so starting to look like a stool. Well, the next thing that you want to do is you want to take your outside arms here and point them to the outside of your stool, just like this. So on the outside arms here, this is where we want to start. We're going to line up our stool with the end of our maple supports and line it up with the edges of our boards here on the side. And once we get it lined up so that our one seat here is perfectly aligned, we're going to glue it and then pin nail it in place. Well, now in order to get the alignment right, you want to fold your chair up as if it was assembled. And it's going to be a little stiff, of course, because it's new and because everything is just friction fit at the moment. But basically, the legs go up and then fold like this. And this is going to help with your alignment. That's the whole purpose of doing this. So your second walnut board now will sit here. You'll butt it up tight to your first board for your seat, but you want to make sure that these two supports here come out flush to the edge. If they're too far in, then you need to close your legs a little closer together. If they're too far out, then the bottoms of your legs need to spread apart a bit more. So you can adjust this until these leg sections are flush. And once you get them flush, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to glue this board in place so that it lines up along the sides and lines up along the front, and we're going to pin nail it together and then let it dry. And at this point you should have something that looks like this. Isn't that cute? You're going to need to fold this up before you can put your braces on. So just grab it by the top. It's going to be stiff at first because the fact that this is friction fit. You can sand your dowels a little bit smaller if you like. I prefer to keep them tighter so that they'll wear over time. And eventually you can close your legs up like that, and then these arms fold down flat to your stool. Now what you're going to need is, if any of your dowels protrude, like this one here or the ones on the inside, you're going to need to cut those flush. But at this point now, you can just take your cross braces, lay them across your legs, leave a little bit of a gap between your seat and your legs, and glue and nail them in place. Remembering that one goes on one set of legs and the other goes on the other. Don't mix them up. And that, my friends, is our stool. And as I said, it is stiff, but it will wear. I may take a little bit of sanding to these dowels just to loosen them up a little bit. I don't want them too loose because they are just friction fit. But basically you lift your side wings out like this, and it will become easier as it wears. And then you push your pieces together and then down. And that becomes your camp stool. So give this a good sanding all over. I think I'm going to put a slight round over around the outside edge of our top surface. And that's all she wrote for this one. Okay guys, so truth be told, I couldn't leave it like that. I've said it on the show a million times. If you're not happy with something in your shop, change it. Don't accept it. And I wasn't happy with how tight this was fitting together. Now I know that over time it will loosen up, but in the meantime it made it too difficult to use. It should be easy. So truth be told, what I did was I actually disassembled the entire project, and I sanded down the dowels a little bit so they're a little loose fitting, and in one piece, so if you have a piece of dowel that goes between these two legs, I glued it into the outer piece and then pinned it with a pin nail just to keep it from spinning or coming out. And it's loose in the mating piece. And honestly, the entire project is a lot easier to use now. It's a lot more user-friendly. So there is the finished camp stool, and to set it up now, you just, there you go, ready to go. And there you have it, some folding camp stools. Guys, I know what you're thinking, and you're thinking, what is the point of this show in December? Well, guys, you still have about 3 weeks left before Christmas. And if you have somebody on your list who is a camper, what a wonderful gift this would make for them for Christmas. Guys, this project takes a few hours in the afternoon. For me, it took a little longer, only because I had to mill the stock. But other than that, if you have 3/4 stock in your shop, these things are very easy to whip off. There's a minimum number of parts to make, a minimum number of cuts, and the rest is all assembly. And as long as you follow along carefully, you should have absolutely no problems. One thing I will caution you about with the assembly is that those smaller cross braces, the 1.5 inch wide by 10.5 inch long cross braces that go on the legs, before you actually glue them or put them in place, test to make sure what legs that they go on, because if you attach them to the inside legs when they should be on the outside legs, they will prevent your chair from opening. So you'll want to be very careful of that you're putting them on the right side. Now, my initial assembly of this was so tight. I mean, those 5/8 dowels were in those holes wedged so tight that it was a real struggle to get that stool to fold or to set up. And you know what, as much as it would have worn down over time, I just wasn't happy with it, so I decided to change it up. Took the whole thing apart, as you know, and sanded down the dowels. But I want to point out to you that that is something to keep in mind. If your dowels are too tight or your holes are too small, whichever way you want to go with it, if you want to sand those holes a little bigger or sand the dowels a little smaller, you can. Whatever makes it easier for you. Even maybe a little bit of paste wax or something on those dowels will assist in having the whole thing move a little smoother. So now what you want to do is basically you can apply a finish and you've got one heck of a camp stool. Now for me, they're not actually camp stools. In fact, they're camping side tables, so that when you're sitting in your chair around the fire, you have somewhere to place a drink or whatever, you know. But either way, guys, this is a wonderful project. It's a load of fun. They're easy to make, and honestly, they're kind of cool. So check it out and make yourself some. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning into the show this week. I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. You click the bell and then you're not going to miss the notifications of future episodes of the program. I hope you've enjoyed today's content, guys. I hope you're going to try this for yourself. And more importantly, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.